All right, everybody, what's up? We're back in the usual setup, and I mean, there's a lot to talk about, and it's going to take more than one video to unpack everything around this blockbuster Russell Wilson trade. But now that we have the details of what we're getting back for him, I want to dedicate one video to just talking about the compensation. There's obviously a whole lot else to dissect here, but I want to talk about the compensation for the trade specifically in this video. So I have it here. It's we give up Wilson in a fourth round pick, and we have gotten in return two first rounders, two second rounders, a fifth rounder, Drew Lock quarterback, Shelby Harris defensive lineman, and Noah Fant tight end. So my early impressions of how people are perceiving this deal is that it's bad for us. They feel like we got fleeced. I got a lot of comments on my last video saying, "Hey, we got fleeced. We got fleeced. We got fleeced. We didn't get nearly enough. We should have taken the Bears offer last year," which that's probably true. The Bears offer last year was probably better than this. But Wilson's a year older and he didn't play very well last year and the team was bad, so I don't think that's terribly surprising. The team made a bet by not trading him last year, and they lost that bet, I guess, because they didn't have a good season, and now they're getting less for it. But I want to dissect this deal for a minute here, because the initial impression that you get on looking at this haul is that we didn't do very well, because the first thing you see is two first rounders, right? We got two first rounders. That's less than what people were expecting. They were expecting 4. They were expecting 5. They there was a lot to there was a lot of expectations, and it doesn't seem like we got there. But just talking about the raw compensation, let's talk through this here. So, okay, we get two first rounders. One is going to be number 9 overall, so it's a top 10 pick. And then we get the one next year, which we don't know where it's going to be. I know Denver's probably going to be good because they're getting a quarterback now, but we also have to remember that's a very tough division. You've got the Chargers and the Chiefs. They're not going to roll over and fall down just because the Broncos got a quarterback now. Both those teams are going to be good. So it's going to be a lower first round pick, but I'm not convinced it's going to be like 32 or 31 or anything like that. So that's okay. I would have preferred to get somebody like the Giants picks because they had two first rounders in this draft. And then we move on to the second round picks, and I think some people are overlooking this a little bit. So the second round picks, here's the thing. The first second round pick we're getting is number 41 in this upcoming draft. So we now pick back to back in this upcoming class. We have the 41 and 42nd pick, 41st, 42nd. Two early second round picks. So to me, in this draft class, which is filled with players who are probably going to be going around that second to early third range that I want, in this draft, to me, that second round pick this year is not that radically different from a first rounder. And don't be surprised if we trade down with one of those second round picks to get maybe 2 early thirds, and we can leverage that to get multiple players that we like in this class. Abraham Lucas may be available in that range. Defensive lineman or a Boy Mafe might be available in that range. There are some guys that you could get in that early third round that I would really like. So you can call it whatever you want to call it. I know that on its surface it is a second rounder, but to me, that second rounder this year has basically the value of a first rounder to me. Now, I will say this, it is very disappointing that we couldn't get both Denver second rounders this year because they have 2 second rounders this year from the Von Miller trade, but the other second rounder is next year, which we don't know what the class is going to be. We don't know who's going to be appealing to us. It's too early to evaluate that. So we also got a 5th rounder and gave up a 4th rounder, so the Broncos got a little bit of a tiny extra squeezed out bit of value from that. And then it comes to the players. Now, the first player involved here is Drew Lock. To me, this is stopgap quarterback option. Drew Lock, he's got a nice deep ball. He's got good size, but that's about all he's got. He's doesn't have a good starting record as a quarterback. His accuracy is not very good. He turns the ball over a pretty decent chunk. He could not get reps over Teddy Bridgewater for the most part last year. I look at Drew Lock and I see a guy who, if he's your stopgap quarterback, that's fine, but that's because the stopgap quarterback doesn't really matter that much. It's just a warm body. And maybe if we can dig something out of him, he could become a mediocre to below mediocre starter. But I don't see him as being a long-term solution at all. To me, Drew Lock's value is probably not even equivalent to the difference between the 5th rounder we're getting and the 4th rounder we gave up. But maybe it's somewhere in that universe. I don't know. Okay, so the next player is Shelby Harris. Nice player, good player. He's going to help in this new defense. He's going to play on that line in the 3-4. But he's already 30, going to turn 31 before the season starts. That's not somebody you're looking to build around long term. This is a guy who you'd be happy to get a few more years out of. Over the last 3 years in Denver, 6 sacks, 2.5 sacks in 2020. Not amazing, but pretty good for a 3-4 end, honestly. And this guy has a good reputation in the Denver locker room. They really like him. They think he's a good player. I think PFF likes him a lot. So, good piece, valuable piece, but not a long-term guy that you build around because he's going to be 31 before we play football again. So, Shelby Harris, decent throw into the trade. And the biggest piece is Noah Fant. Now, Noah Fant, only 24, going to turn 25 in the middle of the season next year. First round pick, very talented, very capable, good blocker. He's put up good numbers in Denver the last 3 years, despite not having good quarterback play. And we got him cheap for the next 2 years. If we pick up his 5th-year option, which I think we'll do, you're looking at like 2.2 this year and less than $7 million next year. Then he's due big money. But you've got yourself a blue chip or borderline blue chip tight end for a combined like $8 million against against 2 years when he's played almost every game in his career and clearly has the ability to be better than we've seen so far because he hasn't had good quarterback play until now. So looking at it from that perspective, to me, this trade kind of feels like 3 first-rounders, a second-rounder, a good young player, a good veteran, and a garbage can. So it's not what some people were dreaming of in the Wilson trade. I understand that. But just from a compensation perspective, I don't mind this. And honestly, given how Wilson played last year, given the fact that he's about to turn 33, given the fact that there are some signs of issues with him in regards to what he's going to be able to do now that he's a veteran, a 10-plus year NFL veteran, which I'll get into in future videos, this might have been about as good as you could do. And I don't know what we're going to do with these assets, but I don't think this is the fleecing that some people are painting it out to be. I still wouldn't have done it, but I don't think this is that bad at all, personally. All right, I'm going to get out of here. Another video later. I am going to go live with the Hawks Nest later. Peace out. Go Hawks. See y'all later.